Welcome to Biz Dev Live. My name is Cameron Toth, and I am excited to spark your marketing up today with the marketing spark master himself, Mr. Mark Evans. We will be talking about marketing strategies, how you actually put your stuff out there in a way where people are going to notice it, and you're going to do a little bit less legwork to get the customers beating a path to your door. We're going to spark up your marketing today. Stay with me. We're coming right back right after the Biz Dev theme. Looking forward to today's conversation. I want to know where you're viewing from. I want your questions about marketing. Make sure you put those into the chat. Let's go.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Biz Dev Live. This is business development, not even selling it.
All right, LinkedIn, Facebook, everybody out there. I'm so excited to bring you the man, the myth, the legend here, Mr. Mark Evans today. Really excited to get into this. I'm going to do his bio now. Mark, feel free to animate yourself on the screen here. Mr. Mark Evans is a fractional CMO, Chief Marketing Officer for B2B SaaS companies who specialize in positioning, strategic planning, and content-driven marketing. Since 2008, Mark has been running his own marketing consulting business, Marketing Spark, hence the topic of today's show, Sparking Your Marketing with Mark Evans. We are excited to get into this conversation. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thanks, Cameron. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about marketing and how I can help entrepreneurs do marketing better and more successfully.
So talk to us a little bit about how you actually help people right now. What is it exactly that you do? What are the services that you offer to help people?
So as you said at the top, I'm focused on B2B SaaS companies. And essentially, I call myself a fractional CMO, but that's a marketer doing some marketing. When you boil it down, I'm really focused on helping entrepreneurs do marketing better, do the right kind of marketing so that they can drive sales forward. And I'm focused on three different areas. One is around positioning, messaging, and brand storytelling. So what is your story? How do you get out to the world so you have something that people clearly understand about what you do and why you matter to them? Then it's around planning. So you take that story, where do you tell it? How do you tell it? Who do you tell it to? And finally, it's helping oversee tactical execution, because it's one thing to have a strategic focus and a strategic plan, but if you can't make it happen, then marketing is not going to work for you. So in a nutshell, that's what I do for entrepreneurs and B2B SaaS companies.
I love it. And just explain, because this show is definitely aimed at entrepreneurs and small business owners. But what the heck is a B2B SaaS company, right? So just explain that out, because not everybody understands all the acronyms. And I want to make sure that, people are tuning into this and getting some value from this, because we're going to talk about some marketing stuff that not only can help B2B SaaS companies, right? Software as a service companies, but other things as well. So talk to us a little bit about why you specialize in the area that you do. And then I definitely want to get into your biographical journey.
So B2B SaaS, well, let me take a step back. In the old days, when you use software, you would download it onto your computer. And that was great. But we all remember the days of downloading software, installing software with CDs. And that's changed because now software sits on the cloud. So the way that you would access a HubSpot or a CRM or email marketing or your email is through the cloud. So there's nothing on your computers. That's why you can operate anywhere. So that's B2B SaaS. And I do focus on B2B SaaS companies as well as B2B companies, because one of the things about my entrepreneurial focus is that I can't be all things to all people. Like, I can't be a marketing consultant, effectively be a marketing consultant to all kinds of different companies. So you've got to pick a horse that you want to ride. And I decided that B2B SaaS is the place where I have the most experience and expertise. And I want to make
which I just want to follow up on. That's like marketing 101 right there. Who's your target audience? Let's advertise and market to them. I'm not going to be all things to all people, because that's not going to help me with my marketing. That's going to be too wide, right?
Exactly. And I want people to be crystal clear whether I'm for them or not. So there's no ambiguity about, well, he's a marketing consultant. What kind of marketing does he do? And that way you can avoid a lot of confusion, and it's all about focus these days, because the more focused you are, the more successful you're going to be. And the one thing I want to stress is that when you do focus, the initial feeling is, well, I'm backing myself into a corner because I'm only dealing with specific types of customers. But the reality is that it's counterintuitive, is that the more focused you are, the easier it is for you to do your marketing, to do your sales, because it's crystal clear to the world what you do, who you serve, and why it matters.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's something that we try to get at with this show, with the biographical story. So let's jump right into your story, why you're passionate about what you do. So what did little Mark Evans want to do when he was growing up? How's that changed? How have you gotten passionate about this area of marketing in specific? But how did you even get introduced to marketing to begin with? What was the path to where you are now?
Well, if I had to be honest with you, I really wanted to be a professional hockey player. That was my original goal. But
and I gotta say, you have the look, right? You definitely could slide into that role on TV right now very easily. Go ahead.
But the problem was I wasn't big enough, fast enough, talented enough, all those things that would make me into a professional hockey player. I still play today. It's still a passion, but those days are long gone. But my path to marketing is kind of interesting, because after I realized I wasn't going to be a hockey player, I got excited about being a journalist. I really liked the world of reporting. I was a big fan of actually reading newspapers back when newspapers were a thing. And I went to journalism school. I became a journalist. I was a reporter for 15 years for two of Canada's largest newspapers. And then along the way, I just developed this interest in storytelling and the value that taking lots of information and crafting stories that resonated with target audiences. And in the height of the dot-com boom in 2000, which seems like a long time ago, a buddy of mine approached me and asked me if I wanted to leave journalism to join a startup. And it was a leap of faith, and I did it. He said that we all become dot-com millionaires, and I thought, well, that's a good idea. Well, I soon discovered that that wasn't the case at all. So after some ups and downs, I went back to journalism, and then in 2008, I saw an opportunity to get back into marketing and really turn myself into a marketer on the fly. Like, it wasn't something I have professional training in. I sort of made it up. Well, I sort of faked it till I made it, and taught myself marketing. And I've been running this consultancy for the last 13 years.
So disaster and challenges in the world are usually a great starting place for a lot of companies and projects and that thing. And I noticed that you put that 2008 date in there. Did that downturn in the economy that was happening around that time have anything to do with this pivot towards marketing?
Absolutely, because I was working with a venture-backed startup for about a year, and we started 2008 trying to raise $10 million. It was a startup backed by Microsoft, so we've got pedigree, we've got this great technology. By the middle of the year, we were looking to raise $5 million, and then it became $1 million, and then the market crumbled on us. If people can remember, it seems like a long time ago, but 2008 was not a good time. Companies were not raising venture capital. The global economy was in a downturn, and I got laid off. And at the time, I had a mortgage, a wife, and 3 kids. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know whether I wanted to go back to a full-time job, because I'd always been an employee. And then I started thinking about starting my own business, so my own marketing business. And I had been given 3 months severance. And I said to my wife, and I always remember this, I said, if I had received 6 months severance rather than 3, I would start my own business. I would jump into the world of entrepreneurship, something I had never considered. And her advice to me, and she's very pragmatic, said, well, why don't you make 3 months severance last for 6 months? And I thought, wow, that makes complete sense. And that's what I decided to do. I took the leap. And a lot of the entrepreneurs in the crowd will realize that the leap into entrepreneurship seems huge. It seems like something that, wow, do I really want to do this? But once you make it, then you recognize it's not that big of a leap. I mean, yes, there's risk involved, but there's also so much opportunity to do your own thing, to be the person that you want to be. And I never look back. Like once I started, I started drinking the Kool-Aid 24/7, and I got my first client right out of the gate. And then it just sort of built from there. And I think, I've got this passion for entrepreneurship that I never knew had inside me. It sort of probably was there, but just needed to be triggered, needed the right opportunity at the right time.
I love that you mentioned a couple of things that I think are beautiful recipes for entrepreneurship. You mentioned leap first of all, and then you also mentioned clients. And I'm remembering back on my own entrepreneurship journey, being discontent with corporate America, the way that it is, and corporate culture in general. Having lots of different managers, not being able to sort of control my own life in a lot of different aspects. I do remember the benefits, and the weekly paycheck was really nice, especially compared to some of the challenges I've had over the last 10 years with sometimes not being able to pay myself while I was paying employees and that sort of thing. So, there's definitely some things when you're looking at entrepreneurship, it is not that fun, friendly road all the time and just automatic success. But that leap is such a big deal. I was talking to Ardell Powell earlier this week, and we were talking about, put your nuts away for winter, have your safety net, and then take that leap, because that is how you're really gonna get into the world. Kind of half stepping it. A lot of people have side hustles. It can be very challenging if you're not really fully committed to what you're doing. Some people can pull it off. It's not for everybody. And then the other thing that you mentioned, having clients, right? Just having somebody, having something to fuel this engine as you're getting going. So identifying those clients early on, really, really important. I love that. All right. So talk to us about this journey. You made this pivot, right? You got into marketing. And so what has it been like from the beginning till now?
Well, I think I got lucky because right out of the gate, I got a retainer client. In the consulting world, if you can get a retainer client, that means you've got money coming in every month for as long as they stick around. And I would say the one thing I would advise a lot of new entrepreneurs is that the first year is often the hardest because you've got no track record. You've got no customers who are driving referrals to your business. So essentially you're on your own. So a big part of it is you can't be 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Either you're all in or you're not doing it. You might as well just have a full-time job. So commit yourself, recognize this is something you want to do, and understand that the first year is going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of hustle. But you have to recognize this is what you want to do. You've got to plan, you've got to focus. And that is that if you put the commitment in, your chances of success are going to be that much greater. If you're kind of half-hearted, then you're not going to be able to do it. Like you really have to be super focused on this is what I'm going to do, and I'm willing to put the work in to make it happen.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's very true. I think that, however you're going to do it, if you're managing it, some people are, launching multiple businesses at the same time, but you got to have that plan in place. You got to know how you're going to do it so you can fully commit yourself to making sure that you're able to go to plan. Ardell Powell, when we were talking about it, getting into entrepreneurship, one of the biggest mistakes that people are making is not also having an exit plan, right? So and I don't know if that's a part of your thing or what you were thinking about from the beginning, but is there an exit plan in place? Is there something that you want to move towards? Is there a goal in mind where you're trying to go? And is there an exit plan?
I wouldn't say there's a formal exit plan. I mean, my goal at this time is to run a business that essentially runs itself. it has a powerful referral engine. So I don't have to do as much marketing and sales. Business comes to me as opposed to me going after business. And sales is hard. I mean, you know that sales takes a lot of time and energy, and you got to commit yourself. And in the early days, when every sale matters, it's a lot of hustle. So I'm kind of trying to get into cruise control. And I don't mean that in a bad way, that I'm don't want to do the work, because I'm enthusiastic about the work and helping entrepreneurs be successful with marketing. But you want to get to a place where you have operational efficiencies. You've got systems and processes in place. So the business kind of runs itself, and you can focus on the things that matter to you, where you're going to deliver the most value. And that's my goal. I would say right now I'm in sort of operational optimization mode, trying to get smarter about running the business so that I can get better ROI and I can make more money.
Yeah, I think folks that are focused on being the technician within their business, they have a passion for what they do. You certainly have a passion for what you're doing, but getting to that place where you can take on more clients. You don't have to take on clients that you don't want to work with. You get to take the clients that you do want to work with, so you can have fun in your business, have optimization like you were talking about. Love that. So let's get into our takeaways today for folks, to give people some value on the marketing side of this. And it was interesting that you were talking about, I don't want to be marketing all the time, right? Because marketing takes effort, it takes money, it takes some willpower. So how do you set yourself up with your marketing so that you're not constantly in marketing mode and sales mode, or you're doing it in such a way that you can put it on cruise control, that you have it on automatic. So let's talk about some of that today. So takeaway number one, which you gave me, the value of positioning as a pillar for marketing and sales. Talk to us about that.
Okay. So right now, if you look at the marketing world, there's an obsession with data and analytics and metrics. It's all about, how can I quantify my marketing activity to the nth degree? Everything should be measured. Everything needs to be measured, especially in a digital marketing world. And I think there's a lot of value in data. There's a lot of value in having insight into how your marketing is doing. But there's also a danger on over-relying on data and analytics and forgetting about the value of brand and the value of personal brand. So it's how you position yourself in the marketplace and how you create this brand aura so that your product or service becomes the obvious choice. When people look at competitive options, they trust you, they like you, they believe that your product is going to help them. So they're going to buy it in many, many cases. And that's the power of brand. So positioning is a simple concept, straightforward concepts. What do you do? Who do you serve? Why does it matter to them? So what's the value that you deliver, and how are you different? And it's the place that I start with all my clients, because if you've got that foundation in place, so when you do marketing, when you do sales, is that you've got the core pillars in place. You know who you're focused on. You know the benefits that are being delivered to the people that matter. And you know how you can outflank the competition by highlighting your competitive differences. And if you've got that in place, then marketing becomes a lot simpler. Sales becomes a lot simpler, and it becomes a lot more focused. But a lot of companies go to market without having proper positioning. And so they're just like everybody else. I mean, you have to understand, as an entrepreneur, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of companies that offer the same products or services at the same prices. They highlight the same benefits. They look the same. They cost the same. And so how do you stand out from the crowd? How do you differentiate? Comes back to positioning. And if you can get your positioning down, then that's amazing, because it gives you the fuel to move forward.
And then I'll keep on this pile, right? If your pricing is higher, right, what's your positioning to justify or show why your pricing is higher, right? Which, I advocate all the time on the show as entrepreneurs. It's a common thing for sole proprietors and small businesses to undercharge for their services, because there's this fear that you're not going to get the clients because your price is too high. Meanwhile, you can be running on this hamster wheel because you're keeping your price competitive. You're not doing justice to your own value, the worth that you are providing, and you're not able to build and expand and really grow what you're doing. And I think that's really important to look at. So talk to us just a little bit briefly more about how you work with people to sort of position people in the market. What's some of the questions that you ask to sort of help people position themselves?
It comes back to the fundamentals, and I don't overcomplicate a positioning exercise. I try to get a sense of, so what do you do? Like, it's a basic question. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle because they use industry vernacular. They're using words that are sort of not really clear inside baseball. And so I get that down. And then it comes down to, so who do you serve? Like, who matters to you? Like, specifically, what kind of customers matter to you? What are their needs? What are their problems? What are their aspirations? And then, like, how does your product align with that? Like what are the benefits or the reasons to use your product? How is it going to make somebody happier, faster, more efficient, make more money? All those good things that they're looking to achieve. And finally, I look at the competitive landscape and ask them, so how are you different from all the other companies out there? And this is a really interesting one because it's not a matter of identifying like a major difference. Like, we are dramatically different than company X, Y, and Z, but in many cases, it's little differences that make a difference. So it's the fact that if you're Domino's, you have the fastest pizza delivery, or that you have amazing customer service, or that you have locations that are super convenient. You've got to find something. If you find something that you can sort of outflank the competition, even if it's relatively small, then that's a great way to round out your positioning. So answer those 4 questions. And any entrepreneur should be able to do it. You can do it yourself, or you can do it with help of a third party. Once you get those down, then positioning becomes a lot more clear. But I would say the key is being honest about what your product does and who you serve, and admitting that you can't be all things to all people.
I love that.
And if you can do that, then you've got a very simple story that people can understand. Because in this day and age, when people don't pay attention, that you've got to get them right away. If they understand right out of the gate, if they read your website or your marketing collateral and they go, that's for me, or that could be for me, then that's marketing success.
Yeah, and I love that because it's letting go of the, do you do this? Do you do that? And we're very busy right now. And one of the things that helps me get through this busy time, because we've had like 19 months of not busy, right? So
Yeah.
one of the things that's helping me get through these busy times where I have less help and support in my office than I had pre-pandemic is I'm very clear. I know what services I offer. So when somebody calls and says, and you hate saying no to a customer, you hate, not being able to say yes and help somebody out. But I'm very clear. You call me and you ask me for a dishwasher. I provide waiters, bartenders, chefs, kitchen assistants, things that are all around a kitchen. And oh, dishwasher. We don't do dishwashers. Why? Because it was one of those services. I tried it. It didn't work. It was too hard to find people. We couldn't, charge enough money for it. We don't do it. And so when people call me, sorry, we don't offer that. And it just makes things quicker, because if I was sitting there trying to do something that knocking my head against the wall, trying to do something to satisfy my clients that I'm just not good at, it's too difficult. I can't make enough money on it. It would waste my time and prevent me from accepting the opportunities that are good and that I'm looking for. And I think that's a great analogy for anybody that's within any kind of business. Focus on the things that you want to do, the things that you're good at, where you can shine, so that you can further that word of mouth that we were talking about, usually one of the best marketing tools available to anybody. And so how do you do that? You set up great expectations. I can do this. I can't do that. Right. I love that piece of it. And I think that leads us to your second big takeaway, the importance of really knowing your customers, right? Because to be able to say no to something like that, you got to know that you're not going to alienate your customers, right? You got to know that how to manage it. So how do you, especially for you that's focusing in these online software companies, and you may not have personal interactions with customers, how do you suggest to these companies to actually get to know their customers?
Couple of things. One thing, before I answer that question, I do want to get back to the power of no.
Yeah.
For entrepreneurship, because I love saying no. And it seems counterintuitive because the default is to say yes to every single thing that comes your way. But the value of no is that you can, if you're focused on what you're good at and who you serve, then saying no makes your life a lot easier, because you don't run into situations where you're going to have unhappy customers because their expectations are out of line about what you want to do.
Right.
But no is a good thing, but I would always say no, but you do this. No, but from what you've told me, I know someone who is really good at that, and that can help you out. So that's a win-win. It helps them because they get to the people that they need, but also it builds goodwill. So if they ever come across somebody who does what you do, they're going to say, you know, I ran into somebody, they couldn't help me out, but you should talk to them. So that's just the power of no, and why you shouldn't be afraid to say no, because it's going to make your business more efficient and more successful.
And I think that's an extra takeaway for people, because we talk about that a lot. I do another show with Steve Spiro, Master Connection series, the power of building a large network and networking with people and getting really to know people, because, you know, you just hear somebody, oh, I bumped into Mark Evans. He does some marketing stuff. But if I don't really know what Mark does, when I have that conversation with that other person, it's not going to come to mind exactly. But, you know, I get into a conversation. Oh, you know, I'm running a software as a service company, and I'm working with businesses. You know what? I got a guy for you. I know exactly what you need. And so really getting to know people and what they're passionate about, that's going to help you have recall and help customers in those moments. You know, and going back to what I was saying, you know, I don't have a lot of companies in this area that I can refer, and I'm always on the lookout for companies that offer sort of similar services, because there's times when I just don't have enough staff available, and I want to help my customers out. I don't care, like, you know, I just, you know, I know that I do a good job, and, you know, I know there's a chance they might find something and be happy someplace else, but if I can't help them, let me help them, right? And so I know that in the long run, that's going to come back to me. It's whether it's the other company, they get successful and they need help the same way I need help. Hey, you know, can you help me out with staff? I have some clients, I can't help them out. It's going to go both ways. And when we're not competitors, but we're collaborators in the field, that's a lot nicer environment to be in. We're not running into cocktail parties, say, oh, I don't like that guy, right? We're working together, and there's plenty of fish in the sea. There's lots of money out there, and I guarantee you're going to grow easier if you're working with people than against people. And I've definitely seen that, you know, within my individual market, even people just like wanting to see other people fail. And that's a horrible place to be mentally. It doesn't help you. The one person I'm thinking of right now, they're out of business now. I know they have that mentality. I don't know how much that had to do with it, but I don't think it helped, right? And so I think that mentality of collaboration versus competition is a wonderful to have and build that large network. I love that takeaway in there, a little extra takeaway for everybody, and I wanted to get that in there. So go ahead. Let's talk about the importance of really knowing your customers.
So I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of marketers who repeatedly are talking about the value of knowing your customers. Now, on one hand, it's marketing 101. Like, every company should know their customers inside out. The reality, though, is that we don't talk to our customers enough. We don't talk to prospects. We don't spend enough time knowing what their problems are, what their aspirations are. So we're guessing as companies. We do marketing that we think will work, that has messages that maybe are aligned with what our customers are thinking, or how what we do is aligned with what they need. And maybe it works sometimes, maybe it's not, but it's not the way to operate. And so I would suggest that we need to be talking to our customers all the time. Now, that can happen in a number of different ways. You can talk to them directly. You can call them up on the phone. You can do a Zoom call. You can hold dinners. You can do surveys. You can do all kinds of things to get their feedback. But what you're looking for is, you want as much intelligence about how they do their jobs, what their pains and problems are, what their aspirations are as possible. And then you can operate with more confidence. You can do marketing that, you know, what kind of marketing they consume, what kind of messages resonate with them, the things that you need to say to them so they go, yeah, that sounds like an interesting product or service. I need to talk to those person, because what we want in business is we want conversations. That's probably one of the biggest metrics out there, is that the more that you can get people to approach you and talk to you, then if you're good at sales, then you can close really quickly. Like, it doesn't need to be painful. It can happen super fast. And so, it's go back to, if you're sitting there and you don't talk to enough customers, or you're not talking to them on a regular basis, then you got to change course directly. You got to do things differently, because your competitors are probably doing a better job than you. They know your customers better than you do, and that's a dangerous place to be.
I want to jump back just a little bit here into the conversation length. And I think this is really important. Now, you talk about software as a service, or you talk about in-person conversations on the phone over Zoom. But I think there's this really interesting marketing sales dynamic about the length of a conversation. Sometimes as salespeople, we don't know when to accept yes for an answer.
Right.
We don't know how fast the sale can be. And so we're sitting there trying to sell somebody after they've already bought, and maybe even talking ourselves out of a sale at this point. Talk to me about how you sort of work with people in that sort of space. I know software as a service, that's got to be a particular kind of interesting thing, because ease, right? How easy is it? And I know for me, and I'm getting texts from clients, and so the easier I can make it, the easier it is for me to close the sale. The harder I make it, the more friction I create, the more they're thinking and maybe choosing an ulterior service, or saying, no, I don't want to work with this guy.
So I think that COVID has created a whole new sales dynamic. And if you do a work back, I think that 30 minutes is become the default for meetings. That's the time that people can spend on a Zoom call, because an hour is too long, 15 minutes is too short. So 30 minutes is kind of like the ideal time. And that you should, if a salesperson, you've got 30 minutes, you've got a 30 window before people lose their focus, or they'll start to multitask or check their email. So that's as a starting point. But one of the keys, I think, to sales is listening. As salespeople, we like to talk a lot. We're so excited about what we do and how it can meet a customer's needs and expectations, that we just ramble on, and we don't do enough listening to what they need. So what I try to do is I listen, and then I reflect, and then I say, you know what? I can help you because I offer this and this and this, and it's exactly what you need to meet for your goals and aspirations. And then there's alignment. Because I'm not trying to put a square peg into a round hole. I'm actually listening to how I can help them. If I can help them, then I'll come up with a solution that almost seems customized to them. If I can't help, I'll go, right?
We got Mark A. Sibley's checking in. He says, employees as customers get to know them. So as you're riffing on this, right, and you're talking about getting to know customers or employee, and sort of the software as a service space, you got sometimes a spread out workforce. They got to be in line with the vision to deliver services. I wasn't planning to go this way, but I'm glad that Mark's asking this question. Internal marketing, making sure everybody's on the same page. What's your riff on that?
So if we go back to the value of positioning. So as much as positioning is about marketing and sales that resonates with prospects and customers, it's also about making sure that your employees are all on the same page. Yeah. They know what the story is. They know exactly what you do, who you serve, why it matters, and how you're different. And there's consistency across the board, because you can't have people telling different versions of the truth. And because if people internally don't understand what you stand for, what you do, who you serve, then there's confusion and a lack of clarity. And that's a bad place to be. So it's important to educate your employees, but as important, if you're trying to recruit talent, then being clear about your positioning is going to make it easier for them to understand, do I want to work for these people? Am I a good fit? for this company or not. So there's lots of benefits to position, including
And that, and that
employee education.
and that adds up to expectations, right? Do I know my customers' expectations? And I think people hire staff, employees sometimes, and rather than get to know their expectations before they start with the company, they're getting to understand their expectations post hire, right? Post entrance into the company. And that is the wrong time to start learning an employee's expectations. Know before they come in the door whether they expect something that's going to happen or not, so that you can make a really good informed decision. Do they fit with your company's position? We are all about X. Are you in? Is this something that fits with your expectations? And you got to get a little bit creative, because obviously somebody looking for a job, if you say, do you know what a toaster is? They're going to say, yes. All right, done. But if you say, hey, can you explain to me what a toaster does? They can't simply say yes. They have to actually explain an understanding of a toaster. Now, you know what a toaster is, likely if you're watching this show, but if you're talking about something specific and it's within the industry, and if they don't know, they're not going to be able to explain that. And so asking questions in that way, hey, can you tell me a little bit about what your expectations are in this role that you're working? So you're asking them to explain those things and not just simply give you a yes. That is going to tell you a lot about what they actually expect from the role. And you're going to start to see immediately whether, as long as you've positioned yourself well and you've explained that well, and not only to them, but to yourself, and understand your position, which is what you're advocating, right, Mark? Understand your position in the market and what you want to do. If you ask that question of them and they start saying the words that you want to hear, not in a prompted way, are you about this? Yes, right? No. What are you about? And if that starts aligning with your positioning statement that you got in front of you, then you know you probably got somebody that's a little bit closer to the center of the bullseye in terms of what you're looking for. I love that kind of advice. Hopefully that was helpful, Mark. Let us know. We definitely want to hear from you. Anything else you want to say about getting to know your customers, Mark?
I would say that from a sales and marketing perspective, it's really, companies need to be customer centric as opposed to product centric. The biggest mistake that a lot of companies make is they focus on features, benefits, prices, and those are important. Don't get me wrong. At some point in time, you're going to have to talk about that. But customers at the early stages don't care about you. They don't care about your products. They don't care about your technology. What they care about is themselves and what's in it for them and how you're going to make their life better professionally or personally. Once that resonates with them, then you can say, okay, that's awesome. Like there's a connection here. Now let's explain how our product can deliver for you. So the initial is always be customer centric, and then you can always talk about your product or service later.
Right. What's the problem that your customer has that you're solving, and really focus in on that real specific thing we've talked about that before on the show. I love it. All right. So we have this third takeaway. Why content will continue to be important to attract and nurture prospects. Talk to us a little bit about the content game. What is content? How do you define content, and how is that important?
Let me start by defining content. And there's different ways. Content takes different forms. It can be blog posts, videos, infographics, email marketing, direct mail, ebooks. There's lots of different forms of content. And one of the keys is trying to identify what kind of content do your prospects and customers consume. Content can also be social media for that matter. So you want to make sure that you're partying in the right place, is that you're not spending all your time on Facebook creating content there, and no one really spends time on Facebook. So that's sort of the starting point. And then for many businesses, especially ones that have longer sales cycles, there's a period of nurturing, educating, and engaging, because it takes them time to figure out, is this the right move? Is this the right time? Are you the best competitive option? And it could take weeks, if not months. And so content is a way of constantly reminding them about you, your product, the way that you think, the way that you could help them. And that's an important part, just to keep the story going, because you don't want them to forget you. And at the same time, you want to position yourself as the trusted resource. as the company that has their best interests in mind, the company that's smart and innovative and dynamic and has all the attributes that would make for a good partnership going forward. Because ultimately that's what you're looking to create is a partnership between you and your customers so that they'll love what you do and they'll stick around. And I think that content continues to be extremely important because conferences may not come back anytime soon. And lots of businesses depend on conferences to connect with their customers and prospects. You go to a conference, you buy a booth, you get on stage, you wander the floor, and it's a really easy way to meet a lot of people in a short period of time. But I'm not quite sure conferences are going to come surging back to the way they were before. I think they're going to be smaller and they're going to be a lot more focused. So if you're not doing that, then how are you connecting with your customers? And that's content. That's the value of content and why content will continue to be important.
And I'm going to say two things. One, I think you're absolutely right that in terms of when conferences are coming back and the way they're going to come back and the way that we meet. So if you're not examining hybrid and virtual models for connecting with people, probably a mistake. You need to be reaching out and doing things a little bit differently than you were before. And then the other side of that is, I don't know how soon it'll come back, but we had a global pandemic before in 1918, and conferences were a big deal before 1918, and they were again sometime after 1918. So I'll say that positive silver lining thing is that people love coming together, people love seeing each other. We're going to get back there at some point. How fast, how comfortable people are, the way that we move and do things is obviously is going to change over the time. But I know that we're coming back. I have a big MPI, Meeting Professionals International background, and I know for folks that follow me that are traveling in those channels, it can seem gloomy right now from prospects for conferences. But I know that so many people are planning and doing things. And people are coming together. There's an event planner expo coming together in the city in October, and I know that's going to be a big deal, and people are coming together. So it's not like these things don't exist. The opportunities are there. You may have to seek them out a little bit more specifically, and than they were before. But I think we'll get back to that place. So I just wanted to hit that note of positivity. So what are different ways that people can produce their content in a way that has maximum output and effect for their company, rather than doing something where they might be spinning their wheels?
So let's go back to the more that you know about your customers, the better. And I think one of the easiest ways to create content is simply to build a list of all the questions that your prospects and customers are asking. So if you can provide answers to their questions, then you're positioning yourself as helpful and prescriptive and someone who's got their best interests in mind. So how do you do that? How do you find all those questions? Well, one way is that you create a system within your company where people, when they hear a question asked by a customer, they put it in the suggestion box. It could be the digital suggestion box or the analog box, like old school, right? The second way is that you bring everyone together. It could be once a month, it could be once a quarter, and you spend an hour and you ask everybody in the room, and I'm talking everybody, receptionist, customer service, customer success, your salespeople, marketing, chief executive, your executives, like, what are the questions that you're hearing in the marketplace? What are you seeing on social media? What are you seeing on LinkedIn? And build a master list. Like, it could be 100 ideas, and you don't let anybody leave for an hour. So you better feed them or drink or serve them coffee. And what you'll come up with is tons and tons of ideas for content that you can turn into videos or blog posts or infographics or ebooks. And that's the stuff that resonates because it's helpful. And you want to be seen as a helpful company. So, for example, in my world, HubSpot produces a lot of content that has nothing to do with their CRM. It has everything to do with answering the questions that customers ask and helping customers do better at marketing. And they've become a trusted resource. So they may get people who may never buy from them, but they become referral engines because it builds brand awareness and trust. So that's how you sort of start to generate a content machine.
I love that. And I want to say, just the building of a FAQ, right? Frequently asked questions, that helps you build systems and processes within your company to make it easier for everybody to service customers, right? So if one person has that question, and I always encourage on this show, if you're watching this program, ask that question, because I guarantee you somebody else has that question. And so you're helping them by asking that question for you. The more specific, better for your business. I guarantee you somebody else out there has that question. So it's always great to get those questions. And when you have a company, people have those questions, right? And so, like right now we're in the pandemic and I'm in a very, person oriented industry. I'm sending out waiters and bartenders and chefs to events. So one of the things that I'm trying to make sure I hit, if I don't hear the question about, is your staff vaccinated? Are they wearing masks and gloves for service? I'm saying it because I know it's probably a question either in their mind, or it's going to be a question that's brought up by one of their guests or somebody that's going to be at that event with them. It's going to be out there. So it's that frequently asked question. So it's just part of my system and process. And so what is it going to do? It's going to cut down on that email that's going to pop up later, or that call. And it saves me time. It gives a sense of relief to the customer and builds in, and those kind of things. I love what you're talking about. If you're able to build on that and expand on that, you can multiply your ability to serve your customers and serve your employees to make sure they have the information that they need to service the customers really well, quickly, best practices, things that are going to save the aggravations and build on the referral network for you, because customers are that much happier because you're able to answer those questions that much faster in the marketplace. I love that advice, Mark. Anything else you want to dig deeper down into on this? Why content will continue to be important and attract and nurture prospects?
Well, I think the other thing that I would add is that you can't be all things to all people. So we've sort of laid that out as a basic marketing fundamental. But many companies, when they sort of embrace the idea of content, they try to do too much too soon. And what happens is that they create a lot of content in a short period of time, and then their enthusiasm disappears or starts to erode. And then nothing happens. And that's the worst thing you can do, because you have to look at content as a marathon, not a sprint. And the key to success is consistency and basically showing up on a regular basis. Now, that may mean every day. You may post on LinkedIn every day, but it may mean once a week. But as long as it's week after week, day after day, week after week, however you want to do it, and you keep showing up and you keep providing value, then that's a perfectly fine way to approach content. We all can't be content marketing machines. Some of us have other things that occupy our time, but embrace the approach that works for you and just keep on doing it, on a regular basis. And then you'll start to see long-term effectiveness from your content.
What do you want to talk about in terms of planning out content? Because I know for me, in terms of putting out content, planning in advance is such a big deal. When I don't do it, I'm basically not doing what I need to do and posting everything. When I do plan in advance, get posts lined up, put some time down. All right, I'm going to create content for the next week, 2 weeks, month. Suddenly I'm a social media posting machine. I'm using things like later.com and other things to help me post on a schedule or even a spreadsheet, just so that I can copy and paste rather than try to think of it tomorrow and the next day and the day after. But what's the importance you put down into planning your content out in advance?
Plan the work the plan. That's the start, right? So you have to have a strategic plan of what you're going to do, why you're doing it, who's going to do it, when it's going to happen. So that's sort of first principles. It also helps to have a editorial calendar to know exactly what kind of marketing you're going to do when and who's going to do it. So that's all mapped out. It can be mapped out for the next 6 months. Now, it doesn't have to be in huge detail, but you know that on Mondays, we're always going to do a blog post. On Thursdays and Fridays, we're always going to do a LinkedIn post, so that you have some visibility into your content marketing. And then it's just a matter of having the systems in place, so you're not it's not seat of the pants, because that's the worst way to do marketing. It's planned, and you know exactly how it's going to unfold, and so there's no surprises. And in time, you'll create that marketing engine. Is that you'll stop thinking about it. It'll just sort of, things will just start to flow, because you know how things are going to happen, what you need to do every single day to make marketing happen.
It always kind of boggles and blows my mind, even the internal conversations with myself. I'll think, well, sometimes I like doing things on the fly because that's when I'm inspired, I'm reading, so I get something that day. But when I plan in advance, for example, I do the show with Steve Spiro and announcing people, trying to do something creative on the fly is tough. And people, I think, especially artists, people that feel that they're creative, I can't plan my art in advance. But if you do it, if you get into the practice of it, you'll find, I think, that you can, and that you're more creative. I know I am. When I'm able to, because we all think that we're multitaskers and we can do multiple things, but if we really focus down on one task, which if we're trying to create content, we can really focus, we've blocked some time out, we've got some quiet, or we've gotten to our happy place, set things up ideally for us, we can really get creative and knock out some great content, whether that's writing, whether that's video, whether that's preparation for video, which is a lot of my time spent doing in terms of planning that stuff out. But what is the process that you kind of recommend? What are some of the things that worked for you in terms of planning out your content, and how would you recommend people sort of sit down and plan out their content?
So first is to capture all your ideas, because we all have ideas that pop up. You're walking the dog, or you're working out, or you're doing something and you're watching a video. So number one is to capture ideas as you get them, because if you let them escape, then you can have a great idea for content or marketing and you'll never get it back. It'll never happen. So capture ideas, and then structure your content so that you know exactly what's going to happen when. And that provides, I guess, a sense of zen, like content or marketing zen, so that you're not worried about doing things like right now. It's not seat of the pants. And the benefit of that is it gives you time to breathe and think and be creative, so that when you come across something that sparks your imagination, that you're just so excited about, that you need to pounce right away, you can do that. You can be spontaneous and you can create content like that, because you've got your other bases covered. So that's the beauty of having systems in place, is that it gives you creative freedom, and it gives you the latitude to jump on things when you want to. And I think, having structure to your content and your marketing really allows you to be successful, because it's less stressful. You're not trying to make it up as you go. And it seems kind of boring but that's just the way that you're going to be successful. There's no other way. And everybody needs systems and processes.
So whether it's the note file on your phone, whether it's the erasable marker in the shower, or the little notebook you carry around in your pocket, capture those ideas. That's Mark's advice, right?
Absolutely. Doesn't matter how, just do it.
And I haven't mentioned the notes and stuff right behind your head on the desk there, but is that some capture space for you over there?
Yeah, so I'm old school. So you'll notice I have a whiteboard that I use all the time. I've got these mini whiteboards beside me that I bought for $4 at the dollar store. I've got like scraps of paper that I write notes on. I have like a drafting table. So like I'm a creator. Like I love to create content, but I also recognize that the more content the more ideas I have, the easier it gets. So yeah, whatever works for you. I don't care. Just capture your ideas, because we've all got great ideas. Just don't let them escape.
I love it. And I'll say this to anybody that's sitting down and maybe they haven't captured their ideas, just give yourself time with it, right? I know I've been there where it's like, oh man, it's so tough to get ideas. What do? I have some time. All right. I start going down some focused web searching, right? Don't go onto Facebook and start going down that rabbit hole. But if I'm researching something, I'll start researching stuff, and the creativity comes. It really does come. You start writing, and anybody that's been a writer understands that you start writing. It may not be all that great to begin with, but then you start getting into it. And then the spark comes, right? We're going to spark your marketing today. We're going to spark your mind. Let that spark flow. Give it time. Give yourself the room to be free. And I love that you have your room there to be creative. And I think that people will be good to create some room for themselves to be creative. This has been excellent. I want to talk about books real quickly before we wrap this up. So I know you said you were reading, when you filled this out, Measure What Matters by John Doerr. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I read a lot of books. The Toronto, where I live, has a fantastic library system.
Shout out to Toronto, all my Toronto folks. I love Toronto.
So I use the library all the time. And the thing about business books, and here's the dirty little secret, is that I don't finish reading any of the books that I take out of the library. I read the first 25, 50 pages. I get the gist of the argument. Sometimes I scan the rest of the books because there's very few business books that really sort of capture my full attention. But I'm always looking for insight, whether it's listening to podcasts or reading books. And the John Doerr book was really interesting because he talks about the idea that you have objectives and key results. So there's goals that you want to achieve, and what are the results you're going to get from those goals. So anything you do from a sales or marketing perspective is you have to be very clear about, like, what are your goals, what are your objectives, and then what are the results that need to happen. And I think that it's really interesting in marketing because we get obsessed with doing stuff, with being busy, but it's really to what end? Like, why do you do what you want to do? What do you want to get out? What do you want to get out of them? What do you want to happen? And so reading books like that are really important. And I think you should tap into your library or build your own library. But we often get consumed with social media and email and videos, and we forget about the value of books. Books are still a great medium, whether you do it on a tablet or physical, but read books and don't feel that you need to finish every book, but just open yourself up to new ideas.
I love that. And I know that you had wrote down that you recommended Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. So talk to us a little bit about that.
One of the few books that I've actually read in its entirety. It's the story of Nike, and it's a story of entrepreneurial focus and persistence and diligence, and how a man with a passion for running and running shoes, the journey that he took over the years. And when we look at Nike now, we look at this powerful, brand and this mega company, and the roots are really small. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you're struggling and you're going through the ups and downs and you're thinking, man, I mean, what's the point of all this? Read the book, because you'll see that a guy like Knight went through it himself, and to the point where his company almost failed. And, sometimes things happen because you're focused, and sometimes you get lucky. But it's a great book. It's a great read. It's an easy read, and written with a sense of humbleness as opposed to bravado, right? And that's one of the things I liked about the book.
Yeah, I think that we have a tendency, once a company becomes really large and successful, you got your Apples of the world, your Nikes of the world, that was inevitable. And I think we, especially as for small business owners and entrepreneurs, it's really, really important to understand that it wasn't, right? It wasn't inevitable that Apple was going to be a success. I mean, they went through so many trials and tribulations to get to where they are now. Nike include, right? You have all these companies. So I think, thank you so much. I think books are key to understanding the past, the key to understanding the future, right? Always recommended books. Love that. I think we have a lot of growth-minded entrepreneurs and business owners that watch this show and love the book recommendations. So thanks for playing along with that, Mark. Mark, let people know where they can find you. I know I posted in the chat just a little bit ago some of your links here. LinkedIn, obviously, everybody knows to watch the show. You got those links, whether you're watching on LinkedIn over to the side, YouTube down below. But you have your Twitter there, your website, marketingspark.co, and the podcast. And I don't know if you want to just talk briefly about the podcast and what that's all about.
So the podcast is a weekly 25 to 30 minute conversation with marketers and entrepreneurs. It's super dog walking friendly. So if you're walking your dog, it's super length. On my website, you'll see pretty obvious CTAs for my newsletter. It comes out 3 times a week. It's about 100 to 150 words, so a really quick read. on marketing tips and advice. And then on LinkedIn, you can find me there. I pretty much post every day. And again, the posts are 100 to 200 words, and it's a great way to find out what I'm thinking and recommendations. And I promote some of my podcasts and videos there. So there's lots of ways to get hold of me. And if you want to email me, it's mark@marketingspark.co. And I'm happy to answer questions about marketing or sales or entrepreneurship.
Love that. Thank you very much. We had another Mark checking in today, so I'm so happy that Mark got his question in there. He was saying yes, he got a good answer to his question. So thank you so much for tuning in, Mark. And I know people are be watching this that didn't comment, but please, we love your comments. You're watching this on the replay, #replay in there. If you have questions around marketing, I know Mark would love to help you out. Set up a one-to-one or just ask a question in the comments. We'll definitely get to it. Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Mark. I'll let you close things out before we play the Biz Dev Live here.
So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, please do so. It's the place where I spend a lot of my time. And feel free to send me an email, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And thank Cameron for the invitation. It's always good to talk marketing and sales.
You did a great job, Mark. Thanks very much. We will see you tomorrow.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live.